Once you grasp this truth that I'm about to tell you, it'll set you free from religion. It'll set you free from parents and moms and family and governments and police, everybody. It'll set you free. And it's simply this. You are divine. God has exploded in a Crab Nebulae explosion, and he has come and manifested himself as billions of people. And you're one of you, and so am I. When I look at you, I see God. When you look at me, you see God. That's why God's name is I am. I am God. It doesn't mean that me, God. It means I am. When you say I am God, you have to say, what is God's name? I am. What? I am God. Oh my God, then all the people, Christians run around, oh, I told you they think they're God. I don't think anything on the side. No, Jesus Christ said, the scripture says you are God, and the scripture cannot be broken. So he said it.
Yeah, like I'm not third album.
Peace, 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 family. How are you all doing? I hope all is well with you. My name is Keisha. I'm an resident astrology, and I am your astrology coach. Today, I'm going to be discussing Pluto entering into Aquarius on January 20th. Pluto stays in a sign for 20 years. And Pluto's happy in Aquarius. Pluto wants us to explore our deep desires, um, connections with your soul purpose. It wants intimacy with others and yourself. It can bring intense situations and intense focus. It wants truth and um, it wants truth to eliminate illusions and deception. It wants us to face our fears and darkness so that we can let go of things that hold us back, so that we can gain power and courage. Because when you're not in power, you will attract jealous people, possessive partners, control freaks. But ultimately, they're sent to you to help you rise above conflict and step into your power. It brings relationship issues after a breakup, especially if you don't heal. But these are, again, they're just reminders to show you it's time to level up. It may require you to be alone to learn more about yourself. That's when you learn it's better to be alone than allowing others to suck the life out of you. We can attract manipulators and be manipulative. And I would question how we look at being manipulative, especially when you're thinking about the archetypes of astrology, which is just the ancient astrology, and understanding, like Venus, for example. Venus is allure, and allure is about being feminine to attract the mate that you want. And so manipulative is both good and bad. You just have to know the difference between why you're doing it. Are you doing it to hurt or harm somebody? Are you doing it to lure your manifestations, to bring in your and create your reality? We have to be very careful with how we portray language, and understanding the difference between both, because good and bad can coexist at the same time. And so on the upside, it can bring us very emotional, intense, sexual, strong relationships. It wants to heal psychological issues and get to the root cause of a problem. Um, Aquarius is a fixed sign, and so there is going to be some resistance to change. Of course, we all want to heal subconsciously. However, we all have attachment styles that attach us to our problems. So we can hear a lot of, I'm working on myself, but still have the same repetitive problems happening in our lives. And again, it's not about good or bad or right or wrong. They're just reminders. You got a little bit more work to do. Maybe you're trying the same thing, expecting a different response. So trying new things, different things, things that you haven't tried, or even perhaps talking to people who have changed, or following people who have changed and seeing what they did differently that maybe perhaps you haven't tried already. That's going to be important. And so finding the truth around self-destructive behavior, obsession are going to be big themes. Closing the door on those things and opening up new ones without any regrets. Pluto is going to eliminate superficiality. This is like not just scratching the surface of a problem, but going deep to get again to the root cause of the problem so you can truly heal and become that phoenix rising energy. And once you hit the phoenix rising energy, if you notice on the chart wheel, all the lower childish baby signs are on the bottom. That might suggest when you're in those energies, you got a lot more healing to do. But once you get to the higher top of the chart, we're talking about Jupiter, Sagittarius, this is higher learning, looking at the bigger picture. Capricorn is your status and being somebody of seen as high value. And then you have Aquarius, which wants happiness and friendships for all people, freedom for all people. And then Pisces is the more ethereal piece, which is really having a spiritual connection with the self and understanding how the universe and even going back to understanding archetypes and how archetype works and how to manifest using that energy by understanding it fully. And you can really only understand that fully when you heal. Because even the higher parts of those charts have lower expressions and how we can act in those ways. So we're constantly learning, growing, and evolving. And so you can meet people who feel faded. But the eighth house, which is where Pluto rules, is a karmic house. And so it's going to be about teaching you some kind of lesson. This can be attracting the bad guys because they're irresistible. So we want to look at Mars. I see Pluto more as a generational planet and having the discussion from a generational perspective, meaning the bigger picture. It's not really personal astrology. And so in order to look at personal astrology and how these things could be playing out for you, you want to look at Mars because Mars is also the ancient ruler of Scorpio alongside Pluto, but Mars is a personal planet. And then you also want to look at Saturn because Saturn is another ancient ruler of Aquarius, also ruled by Uranus. So we're looking at Uranus, Saturn, Pluto, and Mars to get a full story on how Pluto and Aquarius can be played out. And we're following those and whatever signs those planets are moving through that are going to give us more pieces to our growth and challenges. But we will learn to change our focus and get in touch with our inner strength. And it's gonna expect us to commit to that, which I feel like is even harder than going through the struggle. Because once you open yourself up to the divine and you allow yourself to be led by what's quote unquote right, you know, knowing you can make a bad choice, but still making the better choice. These are all the kind of storylines you see more specifically in these superhero movies, and how they want to fix things and keep things in order and structure and things of that nature. But it's really just about doing the right thing. So we're talking about the 42 laws of Ma'at, or the seven deadly sins, philosophy, culture, morals, ethics, doing the right thing, even though you have a choice. And sometimes it's hard to make that choice because people might really deserve to get an uppercut in the throat or something, but choosing to do the right thing is the moral, ethical thing to do. And so committing to that, I think, is harder than even going through the destruction, or the part that most people might view as challenging. But once you get through that part, to continue being that part, even though there are going to be still bad things that happen to you, that's just not easy. But we are going to be expected to commit to that journey. Aquarius rules community and other people, so we can definitely see a lot of themes about that. And people who have already done the work, you can already see these things happening in the world and different places. But this is ultimately going to be about learning how to welcome others into your life, but have boundaries. Remember, Aquarius is also ruled by Saturn. Saturn is all about boundaries and knowing your limits, understanding that some people aren't ready to change. Some people do have jealous tendencies and can be hateful, vengeful, and things of that nature. But knowing the difference and how to deal with those things um, is kind of where we make the right decisions, making head over heart decisions, um, and knowing that, okay, well, this person's just not ready for where I'm at right now. I'm gonna have to deal with these people over here. Um, um, or perhaps even learning relational skills and how to incorporate people where they're at. That's a more difficult conversation, but I find these topics come up a lot. Like, I was talking to my counselor today about, I don't believe that people show up envious, vengeful, or jealous because that's what they want to be. I feel like people who show up that way, nobody really sat down with them and said, hey, how would you like to be a part of so and so? They were left out, which Aquarius can really talk about, people feeling left out or ostracized because they're different, right? And not feeling worthy of being a part of a group. But that came from somewhere. People not feeling included, not accepted, or shown how to grow within who they are and what specialties they have. And so when I think about things like this, I think it is important to have conversations about eliminating the idea of, how people say, don't share your goals with other people. Don't tell your secrets or what you're doing. Don't share your life because you'll have people who are envious, jealous, and don't have the best for you. Now, remember, two sides of a story can be true at the same time. I think when those people say that, they are very correct. That is a correct storyline. That is a real possibility. However, if we're just shutting them out, then all you're doing is furthering that darkness to grow and fester into what we call revenge, jealousy, hatred, etc. And so how do you eliminate that? Well, you put light into it. You share your story, share your goals, include people in what you're doing, especially coming from the Saturn perspective, because it's about business, right? And in business, you have a skill that other people want to learn or know or be a part of, that you share with them to grow together within that. So you're teaching them a skill that you have, that you can provide light, information, insight, where somebody sees the reflection. That's 9 times out of 10. It's not just that people are attracted to you because of you have darkness within you that you need to heal, but people are also attracted to you because they see you as, wow, you've healed, you've overcome something, you're doing something with your life. How did you do that? Even if that's not exactly what they're saying, and they're showing up in a energy that's other than that. And include them in their process, and understanding that everybody's different. Everybody has their own set of skills, and there's no such thing as copycatting, right? Because if you're attracted to somebody for what they're doing, It's because you recognize something about them that you know you're good at, but nobody never sat down with you to say, hey, you want to do this? You seem to be really good at this. I've watched you, I've seen you, you've done this, that, and the third. Do you want to learn how to do that? Do you want to be a part of my group? Do you want to be my friend? Do you want to buy my service to help you grow into mastering Saturn, that skill, so that you can then do the same? And that, in that sense, it eliminates the idea of copying somebody, because they are good at that too, but they're going to do it in a completely different way, just by way of looking at their chart, right? We have a lot of people who have similar charts, but different houses and places and aspects that are going to show up different than yours. And it's necessary for that person to be able to shine their light in the world without being seen as a copycat or, jealous, envious, etc. Right? But if there's no avenue or lane or light out there for that person to learn from that or grow from that, then this is where these kind of lower expressions come from. But I don't think that they come from nothing. I think they come from us shutting people out and not sharing our story, sharing where we come from, how we got there, starting a business, setting up a skill set, teaching a class, starting a group, whatever, way you see fit, just being a good friend, or a sister or a sibling or a mother or a father, whatever, right? When we close that door and we don't share to eliminate that darkness, that's always going to be there. And Aquarius is really going to ask us to open up in this way. It's going to be important if Pluto is giving Aquarius power to the people. Aquarius is about giving power to the people. But if people don't see where they fit into the group and feel like they don't have a skill, somebody's going to be left out, and that's not going to be okay with Aquarius. And so we're going to have to eliminate a lot of these ideas that we have about sharing information, opening up to people, and learning how to work together. So that's like what social skills, relational skills. Maybe these are things you can learn more about, learn how to talk, maybe some speaking classes or public speaking classes and things like that, to help you change your mindset on what it is you're doing and how you can do that in a more effective way to help other people grow into the person that they are meant to be. I think that's going to be a really, 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 really big theme. We can also see cybersecurity and censorship themes coming up a lot. Porn sanctions. I think they might even start charging people for porn and stuff like that. Seeing more outside programs for kids, or just kids playing in the park more. I don't think the internet in this first round of Aquarius, until we learn who we truly are, the dismantled idea of AI, internet, social media, I think Pluto's going to break those down and build it back up to until we learn how to use that the right way. I think we're also going to see the replacement of structures in all areas, but definitely in career. We may see more self-made people, or a rise of small businesses and the fall of big businesses, especially Pluto coming out of Capricorn. And we got that one more month of Pluto going back, retrograding back into Capricorn at that 29th degree, that anaretic degree. We're going to see more dismantling of Capricorn themes, which is also equal or equates to Aquarius, because it's also ruled by Saturn. So Saturn's busy. I do see this as a continuation of the year 2020, because I coined that year the year of Capricorn. because we had almost really throughout that entire year, every single planet in Capricorn the whole year. That's the first time I've ever seen that done, being an astrologer. And I know I haven't been an astrologer long, but that was a pretty big deal. And so there are going to be some more themes of that kind of crumbling so that we can rebuild that in a new, more effective way. I think we can see the demolish of communities, political parties, friendships, um, especially friends who feel entitled or entitled people. We can see the fall of that. Um, Again, technology is going to change, social media platforms are going to change. Um, Online communities are going to die, especially on Facebook, TikTok, IG. I think we're going to, more grassroots. Aquarius is grassroots efforts, so things that start um, from the bottom up, not using tech. That does not include technology. Not to say that technology is going to, you know, not be a thing, but I think we're going to see over time that it's not always the best way to go about things. Not everything, but definitely a lot of things. Um, and then, we'll see some more new social media platforms coming in, like they did with MySpace, right? I couldn't tell you what was wrong with MySpace. But whatever that was, they seen things like Facebook, TikTok, IG take over, right? It's going to be the same thing, I feel. Again, people can feel rejected from groups, especially if they're uh, due to their sexual orientation. I think we could see a lot more people, kind of kicking them out of things, or not making them feel a part of the group. This can also indicate social media influences getting taxed or having access to loans. I know, is it not Cash App, PayPal. Now, depending on how much money you make in your business, they'll offer you loans or credit cards. I feel like a few more do it too, and I think that will most likely grow. I think we can see political crashes, crashes with the voting system, religious beliefs changing, democracy. So, family, if you haven't gone back and looked at my other Pluto and Aquarius video I did at least two. They might be on my old page. I'll try to go back and see if I can find them, and I'll put them on my link tree. So on my links through my social media page. Um, and I'll try to put them up there so you can go back and listen, because what I did in that video is because Pluto's a generational planet, I broke down each generation. And that's going to be important to know, um, too, especially the Pluto and Leo generation, because Aquarius is opposite Leo. And so whatever was being demolished and rebuilt at that time definitely is going to have some kind of effect on the expectations that we're changing here. Um, Hold on. Okay, sorry about that. And so I'd go back and watch that video, because Leo's going to be the Pluto and Leo generation is going to be important to whatever changes we're being asked to make at this time, as well as Pluto and Capricorn, obviously. We'll see a lot more things from those two generations than anything else. Um, and so I'll try to look for those families so that you can look at them, but um, I think because I talked about the French revolution. There was a lot about war and stuff in there, and kind of some of the things that came about through that. And Pluto and Aquarius, we haven't had during our lifetime. This is new for everybody. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. But I do think that it's going to have a lot to do with the democracy of this country and what that really means to us. And so this is about an idea of how society should operate. Just like monarchy, um, uh, patriarchy, um, anarchy. I'm pretty sure Aquarius is anarchy. I think I did talk about that before. And the matriarchy, right? You got to go look those things up to get more information about them. But essentially, what we're discussing here is um, where do these ideas come from? We have to go back to our history. Um, and all they really come from are the ancient archetypes, not just philosophy and intellect when it comes to making decisions about how people live their lives. It's about, the depictions of statues and, you know, uh, I wish there were more pictures in here, but I know there aren't. But it, it's like it's like the ideas of how we got started and how we kind of keep those things in line, like going back to what I was saying about morals, ethics, and the 42 laws of my art, the archetypes of those things that come from the gods, right? So Aquarius is the as above, so below. Anything that's happening up here happens down here. This is where we get our ideas from, the history of the gods, which is ancient astrology, the stories of ancient astrology. Um, I'll take it a step further back to ancient times when we as Black Americans were in power. And let me be my mention, and I have talked about this before. Um, I don't remember what video it was. I think I was doing the North and the South Node. I was breaking down the archetype of the North Node and the South Node. But even back then, we had, hoodlums, gangsters. That was I can't remember what they were called, but I know for sure that it was the people who ruled the ocean, right? The land and laws and rules of the ocean, and talking about they were the rebels, essentially. They were the anarchy. They were raping, pillaging, and all this other stuff. These were Black people, right? But then we also had the higher ancients who were, revered as you know, uh, what we would consider, stand upright people, right? Very, very knowledgeable, very educated, very smart. And they had a way of life that kept them in order. Um, and then, in the caves, they had white people living in caves. This is a real life story that I learned. I think Kevin talked about this. I don't remember his last name. I'll try to find the video. He talks about this in more detail. Um, and we didn't share our information with them, right? And so they were in darkness this whole time, being treated like slaves, people that didn't matter, uneducated people. They didn't wear clothes. They didn't. clean themselves or take care of themselves. And when you really get down to the business of this, when you think about Aquarius themes, because Aquarius can be bohemians, people who live in caves, people who don't wash up, or they're hairy, they don't shave, they don't believe in shaving. I think the closest people that I can think of that kind of adopted that ideology are Jamaicans or the Rastas, right? And so really getting down to the history of it all, but really more so than anything, paying attention to the themes, the archetypes that are being played out that have happened over generations, over different eras, and things of that nature. Really understanding the history of that and how we got to where we are now. These ideas that we have about how we should live and why these things have changed over the years is because of the change of power, of jealousy, envy, hatred, of people being kept in the dark and not having access to knowledge and power. And so, towards the end of our rule, we began to notice how much we've kept these cave people in the dark and didn't share education and knowledge with them. And we opened it up to them. And that's when we had our fault. That's not to say that we weren't supposed to share, but going back to what I was saying before, if we're not including or incorporating the group, if we don't have social skills and relational skills on how to teach these things, it leaves room for darkness, right? These things are going to happen, right? And that theory, ideology has played out over time and time and time again. And so what happened was, once the white people learned and they got really smart, they started to rebel and revolt. And that's kind of, you'll see the storyline of that playing out around this idea of them being in power and not, kind of holding this darkness over us, because this is a lesson that we as people have to learn to change how we can do that in a more effective way. And I feel like Aquarius is going to be all about that. And it's going to play out in various different ways. But, um, understanding that is going to be a bigger issue more than anything. But what it really reminded me of is what I was talking about when I did the Capricorn new moon video and had a meltdown. And I was talking about how Cat Williams was having this thing about copying. And so in their system, in their society, in this democracy, their one true moral ethic belief is that in order to stay in power is division, arguing, fighting, keeping us from our knowledge, knowing who we are. And they have a platform for that, which is called society, right? And as long as we're living by those societal norms, you're always going to have things like copycatting and seeing people arguing and fighting over those things, as opposed to if it was family dealing with family, you'd have an elder, an educated elder, who would say, I think I was watching a TikTok and it said something like, it made the two brother and a sister hold each other and sing the theme song to what's the name of the show? Give me a high five. I can't remember the name of the show, but little things like that to help us look at what it means to get along with one another and how to live in the same society as one another with morals, ethics, higher morals, ethics, not the societal norm, obviously, uh, morals, ethics, and things of that nature from a higher vantage point, right? How can we all get along? How can we all come together without seeing somebody as being a copycat? Like, I look up to my mother despite our disdain for each other, I'll say, okay? My mother is my hero. I don't care what anybody tells me with higher knowledge now, today. I am just like her. I might be a better version than her, right? Because she hasn't taken time to heal, et cetera, et cetera. But I am every bit of my mother. Does that mean I'm copying my mother? Does it? Or is that just an archetype that I'm pulling from that I wish to be like? I am a reflection of her. You understand what I'm saying? We don't have that anymore. That has been now put into movies. That's why I gave the example of Thor, Ragnarok, because they are telling our stories. And this is how a lot of them have gotten how society has been able to stay in power so long, because they're not necessarily hiding your story from you. You just don't know that that's what you're watching. You understand what I'm saying? And they do this through plays, through archetypes, through themes, through ideas that have come from as above, so below. We are literally playing a projector, like a projector playing out in life the same stories that the gods have went through in each other ages and generations, etc., etc. Then Aquarius is going to come in and say, we got to resolve these issues. So it's going to break down a lot of these ideas and the way we think about these things. And it's going to be painful. You know, I think I mentioned that when I talked about this the last time, because Aquarius rules the people. And that means we have to change now. You can't say, oh, the white man's not doing this for me, and the white man's not doing that for me. And, all this kind of stuff here is like, okay, you know that now. We've recognized that now. Now, what are you going to do to get up out of that and change that storyline to some other kind of perspective or reality, right? How are you going to change that story? And this is why I think Saturn is going to make us go back to doing things the old way and not through technology or online. It's going to be start with the family, start with yourself, start with your immediate surroundings to heal those problems, come together in a more healthier way, build something on it like family business or just family ethical living, okay? Because not everybody wants to be in a business. I get it. Even though it doesn't really matter how you look at it, it's still a business. A business is just a structure, but that's another story for another day. How are we going to have these more intellectual, philosophical, moral, ethical conversations? Because Aquarius is going to force us to come together and work together. Um, so yeah. But this is why I hate personal astrology. I really think when you're learning astrology, you should come up here and learn your history and then learn down to your personal self. Because then when you learn it, you understand you're not copying or trying to be like somebody else. You are living in your purpose. And yes, that means you're going to reflect somebody else. You are going to reflect as above, so below. But it's always going to be in your own unique way. That's the one thing I think we have to learn when we say things like copying or somebody's jealous of you, or we got to change those ideologies because they're not real. It's a misconception, and we're failing miserably because we believe those things are true. And so skills are definitely going to be a big part of how we get out of that. Um, because we lack values, morals, and ethics. And values, morals, and ethics hold together the family. They hold together the idea. They hold together the structure. If you don't have any of those things, that's why America's fallen, because it doesn't have these kind of strong beliefs. And so now we just have a bunch of individuals individuating, forgetting that we are the prize. We make the magic, but there's no structure or stability. And the bottom line is those things never change. You're always going to be asked to be a stand-up right person. You're always going to ask to make the better choice. And that's what brings individuals together. That's what's going to bring the new ideas together. And then you get to see you're just a piece of a bigger puzzle in your own unique kind of way. So that also means, Aquarius can bring in humanitarian causes that I think are going to change drastically. There are going to be huge shifts in society. Social media influences are going to be exposed. People are going to be jealous of social media influences. It's going to be cultural crisis. Criminal activity can grow. I also think that Bitcoin and new innovative ideas are going to come, linked information of the top 1%, artificial things are going to be exposed. People are going to want to take their power back through strikes and all those kinds of things. But I wish we would change that too. But ultimately, again, what we're going to learn in these moments through enlightenment are that you are stronger with others. There are going to be changes in the phone industry. Again, we might go back to not using phones. They can be the death of the pandemic. We can hear about aviation and aliens, body language, cost of living, electricity is definitely going to change, new building structures of houses, a death of empires, air pollution is going to be a big thing, a decrease in carbon, death is going to be probably prolonged. I think they're going to try to close out the middle class. Transportation is going to change, civil rights, minority changes, trash and waste because of Pluto, trades and unions because of Aquarius, surveillance, automation services, gender issues, abortion, the lack of children, no prime minister, not a head of a company, changes to shareholders, new ways of healing. And I said life and death, right? They're going to try to prolong death or prolong life, I think. DNA modifications, fraud on social media, hackers, shared power, and dictatorship, especially for people who they're not going to be so open to, giving up their power. But I thought this was a more personal explanation as opposed to what I did the first time. Hopefully, this stuff is helpful, family. Leave your comments. Let me know if you agree, disagree. Like, share, subscribe if you haven't already. And as usual, family, I love you. I appreciate you. I hope you found this information helpful. Peace.